Last week, I chatted with Tara from the Reclaimed Ranch. If you guys have been around the DIY or upcycling world, you've probably seen her gorgeous work that blends rustic charm with creative inspiration. Tara is a featured creative at this year's Vintage Soul Creative Retreat, where she will be teaching a class on how to seamlessly blend your decoupage or rice paper with paint. This technique totally elevates your projects. You guys, this is definitely an episode that is filled with insights and inspiration just for you. So go check that one out. Now, in this week's episode, we're diving into the wonderful world of vintage gallery walls, why they're such an amazing way to tell your story, how to collect and curate unique pieces, and simple design tips to help you create a wall that you love without spending a fortune. I'll also be sharing a little behind the scenes by giving you an update on my latest thrifting find. Wait until you hear about this incredible frame that I thrifted, you guys. So, whether you're a seasoned thrifter or just getting started, you'll walk away with inspiration, practical tips, and permission to embrace those imperfections in your decorating journey. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Rescued and Upcycled podcast with weekly inspiration, tips on trying new techniques, and overall real talk about owning your own DIY business. Now here's your host, Sonnet Ullenbrock.
Welcome back to Rescued and Upcycled, the podcast where we celebrate creativity, vintage charm, and decorating with heart. I'm Sonnet Ullenbrock, and I want to thank you all for joining me today on my podcast. If you guys are new here, I love to interview creatives and other small business owners and talk a bit business, but my heart is all things thrifting, upcycling, and home decor. So, before we jump in to the podcast today, let me tell you guys, I scored the most beautiful old vintage frame at the Goodwill bins a couple weeks ago. I can't even remember when. It was several weeks ago. And you guys, it has the most perfect amount of chippy goodness and character. And I just can't wait to show you how I'm going to use it in my very own gallery wall. I've recently spoke about how one piece can completely inspire a project. And this is the piece, you guys. I found this and I knew that I wanted to include it in some type of gallery wall, layer some frames with it. And this is the one, you guys. It definitely inspired my whole vision for my second gallery wall. So, what a great segue, though, right? Since today's episode is all about gallery walls, those wonderful creative displays that really turn any blank wall into a living story for your home. So, whether you guys are into vintage botanicals, family memories, or just a little bit of everything like me, a gallery wall is one of the easiest ways to infuse personality into your space. I'm trying to think how many years ago I created my very first gallery wall. And I had no idea what to do with this one space in my home. I started to brainstorm and I just was like, nothing ever fit. It was just an awkward space. It was blank and the ceilings were very tall and it just was an eyesore to me. And I started to look on Pinterest for some ideas just to kind of get my creative juices flowing. And that is when I discovered gallery walls and I completely fell in love, you guys. I had so much fun curating the items and really pulling them all together that I knew that when I decided I was going to create my second gallery wall in my home, I wanted to bring you guys along for that next one, while I curate and then pull all these pieces together. And I'm going to walk you guys or show you tidbits as I'm pulling all these pieces together. So I'm not actually creating it for a little bit because I still have several items to curate, but I'll also, in today's episode, be sharing some of my best tips, plus a few ideas that you can try possibly even this weekend. So, if you want me to see me pull together and assemble that gallery wall that I'm talking about, I have an upcoming live styling session inside the Makers Creative Community. Where yeah, it's a new community that I've just created, and we're doing live styling sessions, we're doing DIY projects, I'm sharing tips and tricks, and you're getting a lot more behind the scenes. It's like my little VIP members, and I love them, and we're having a ton of fun in there. So one of the upcoming live styling sessions will be my vintage gallery wall, and I am so excited to show off the pieces that I'm finding. So how I did my last styling session is I laid everything out, I showcased all the pieces and told the why behind the piece, and then I pulled the project together. And my last project that I did was my tablescape. So how I'll do this is I will have it all laid out. I will talk about each of the pieces, and then we're going to assemble the wall together. It may be a little bit difficult because it is on a wall going up the stairs, but hopefully I'll be able to position everything just perfect, and you guys will be able to watch along. So that is going to be a really fun episode. And to be honest, everything we're doing is amazing in there. So I will have some of the details linked in the description below if you're interested. So you may be thinking, why a gallery wall, and why are gallery walls so powerful? If you've ever looked at a blank wall and thought, "Ugh, I just don't know what to do with this," you're not alone. That's exactly why I love gallery walls after I discovered them. They truly instantly transform emptiness into something warm and meaningful, you guys. And that is exactly why I created the gallery wall a few years ago. Uh, my example is like you would walk in my back door, and instantly you would look down the basement stairs and you would see these massively tall blank walls. And I had put stuff like right when you walked in, but the walls go all the way down and they're super tall. And I just felt like it was such an eyesore. I was so frustrated at looking at that blank canvas. It was just so plain. I didn't know where to start. And that's, like I said, when I found Pinterest and discovered gallery walls. And so, with a gallery wall, they're more than just decorations. You're able to tell your story. So it's truly like a storytelling space. A place to really showcase your personality, your favorite themes, some memories, your memories, whether you're truly a romantic at heart, you have a really eclectic style, or have a love of, a classic cottage, your wall can reflect who you are and truly tell your story. So that is exactly what I did with the gallery wall going down to the basement. Um, that was my very first time trying this technique or trying to pull something together like this. And I had so much fun, pulling these pieces together. I was given this beautiful arched window and I didn't know what to do with it. It was huge and it was so many panes, but one had like a crack in it. It was brown. I think it was like brown. So I ended up painting it. I painted it like, I think black. I should have actually like snapped a photo of it and attached it to like the thumbnail, but yeah, I painted it black. So I did upcycle some of the items, and then I created some of my own artwork, which was really fun. So I then pulled together like a color palette, and I created my own artwork. I had a few salvaged pieces. One was from a back of a chair. The chair fell apart and the pieces were just so beautiful. I'm like, I can't get rid of them. And so I took that salvaged back of the chair. It's you would never know it was a chair, a back of a chair. It's so beautiful. And then I had another, like a vintage door, and a chunk of the door fell, like this piece that's really cool fell off. And it was just like the chippy goodness on it. I used that. And then my brother had this old Victorian farmhouse. And when they remodeled it, some of the pieces got damaged and he had them in a pile. And so I grabbed a bunch of these vintage pieces from his home, and I have a chunk of that in there as well. So it's really a way to showcase like my thrifted finds, my vintage treasures, in a curated, intentional way, along with some of my handcrafted items. And the best part, a gallery wall is never finished. So this is the cool part, you guys. They evolve over time. It's like a living scrapbook for your home. And so, as you find new pieces or make new memories, think of it as a living scrapbook, like I said. So, and the other cool thing too is if you guys are on a budget or renting, this is just a truly an easy way to create a really big impact without knocking down walls or spending a fortune. It's just it's so fun to pull together. So you may be asking yourself, where do I start collecting pieces for my gallery wall? Well, my favorite place to go, of course, is like thrift stores, Goodwill bins, flea markets. But you definitely want to keep an eye out for all different, items. And just try to get like some inspiration. Like one inspirational piece will kind of like feed the rest of your gallery wall. So look for like vintage frames in all different shapes and sizes. And you guys, they don't have to match. You can paint them. You can decorate them however you want. Look for, like vintage botanical prints, or they don't even have to be vintage. Botanical prints, portraits, old book pages, vintage mirrors, just small curiosities. And then you can create your own DIY art. Try decoupaging a piece of paper from your maker's box or framing your own painted canvases. And, here's your permission slip, you guys, to embrace those imperfections. I think so many people like get freaked out, like they're, oh my gosh, it has a chip, or there's a faded corner, oh gosh, that's just not perfect. It's okay. It is okay. That's exactly what makes a piece feel like a story. The imperfections. And you also want to mix different textures and scale so your walls feel curated rather than store bought. So don't forget the personal touches also, you guys. So like a handwritten recipe from your grandma, or if you have children and you have their artwork, so their first watercolor painting, those are the treasures that truly make your gallery wall yours. And every time I walk in the back door, I look at my own artwork. I look at my brother's piece from his home. He has now sold the home. So I think, gosh, what if I wouldn't have grabbed that? I would never have had that thought. Every time I walk in the back door, I have that thought. I also created this little plaque with a vintage hanger on it, and I have a vintage set of keys. I was at a flea market like years ago, and I was digging through, and there was just a keychain of all these vintage keys. And the guy, I think, sold it to me for like $1. And I've had it, and I'm like, what am I going to do with it? What am I going to do with it? And I hang it off of there. And I just think, as I'm unlocking my back door, walking in, there's the set of keys. It all has a bit of meaning to me. So do that for you as well. Make that gallery wall truly yours. So once you've gathered your treasures, now it's time to design your layout, and start by picking one focal point. So whether that be a larger frame or an eye-catching piece, and then start building around that. I always recommend laying everything out on the floor first. It is so much easier, honestly, to shuffle things around before you start hammering. And it just reminds me of when I did my tablescape. I wanted it to be very authentic and I wanted to do it like on the fly with you guys or with my members. And I thought afterwards, I probably should have had some idea of what I was doing because I came into the tablescape with too many items and then I had to like start pulling things back because you can only put so much in a tablescape. So when I do the gallery wall, I will have had everything laid out so I already know. But that's what I would recommend doing. Lay everything on the floor first and then when you're arranging on the floor, start looking for balance, spacing. You can aim for, like some symmetry if you like that clean look or just go full on eclectic and like let your pieces dance across that wall. And that's kind of what I did with my first one. I kind of and mine is a little bit different too. So I did down the stairs for my first one, so down the basement stairs. My next gallery wall is going to go up the stairs for the upstairs. And that has been another space I have been on the struggle bus. I've had just like a single picture there. I've had like the kids' pictures there, and it just never felt correct, like right. And now like I said, I'm in gathering pieces. And so I'm really excited to bring you along for that. So, um, if you also want to visualize how it's going to look like on your wall, I mean, if you're, I'm not going to do this, but you can also cut out paper templates the size of each of your pieces and then tape them up first if if it makes you feel better. But honestly, this step is totally not needed. So, but yes, if you feel like you want to do that, you can definitely do it and then rearrange that way as well. Some people are a little bit more, I'm just kind of like go with the flow. And if it looks good on the floor, I'm going to put it up that way. So, and I probably will start on one end and then just work my way. So, for hanging, if you're worried about holes, because there will be a lot of holes if you have a lot of items on your gallery wall all staggered about, you can use command strips. They are great for like lightweight frames, but those sawtooth hangers are handy, and nails are, definitely an option if you're come and just get the tiny ones so you're not having to patch like a ton of big holes. But yes. So that's pulling it together. But even before that, like as you are curating your items, you're going to want to come up with your style and your palette. And you can start off by creating a theme if you want. So you can, if you're like very into nature, you could do a nature inspired theme, like with botanicals and earthy tones. You could do something very moody and monochromatic, for a dramatic vibe. You could do a whimsical cottage core, so full of pastels and florals. Or you could just do French farmhouse with neutrals, vintage metals. I am going to go just all in vintage. I have this vision of I'm going to do some old picture frames. I'm going to do some whisk brooms. Oh, you guys, it's going to be so good. I have been seeing, I did like a walkthrough over at the Yield Goat. And if you have a place in your area like the Yield Goat, I would definitely go there for, inspiration. Look for different items there too. And then I know it's like a little bit probably if you're not okay, so you can buy all your items there. I'm not saying not buying there. Oh my gosh, now I feel like, oh God, I'm telling people not to go to stores like that. No. But if you're wanting to do this on a budget and you see something there, you can try to find it yourself. Or you can just have the fun of going to like a thrift store or the Goodwill bins and like be on the hunt and kind of know what you want. Or just go to Pinterest and look at their gallery walls as well. So I feel like I backed myself into a corner there for a sec. No, I always like to do things on a budget. I'm just very frugal and I guess I like the thrill of the hunt. I like to get ideas and see a vision and then go and try to find it myself. So, now keep in mind, you guys, like I said earlier, even if your frames don't match, it's okay. You can tie everything together by just repeating a color, or maybe like even the mats, you can create a mat for inside of the frame. You can make them all creamy white or some type of accent color. So keep in mind, there's a way to tie it all together. And don't forget dimension. A truly interesting gallery wall layers in 3D items. So you don't want everything to be completely flat. You want things to stick out a bit. Like I had the keys hanging off that vintage hanger. You can, I also now thinking like a basket off of a peg wall. You could have a hat hanging off of a peg wall. It just breaks up all the rectangles that you may have and definitely add some vintage, architectural pieces if you have them. That is a really cool way to add just a little bit of additional character and a vintage vibe. So, you might also be thinking, well, I don't have any like basement stairs or I don't have a upstairs going upstairs. Where does a gallery wall work best? Well, honestly, you guys, anywhere. You can pick any wall. If it is a wall space, you can create your own gallery wall anywhere. So like over a sofa or your headboard, even along, like in the upstairs, if you have an upstairs along a stair wall up there, in an entranceway. So you enter, and rather than like mine goes downstairs, you just have an entranceway. You can put one there, to greet you and your guests, just like I greet myself every time I walk through that door, or my guests, exactly the same, that you would do with an entranceway. You can do it in a dining room, kitchen corner, even in a bathroom or laundry room. Just because those spaces you don't necessarily think like I should put a gallery wall there, but why not make those spaces feel special too? And a gallery wall does exactly that. So if you got a blank wall, you got potential, guys. So, and I always say, do it like I try to stick to a budget. I do not like to break the bank on any of these things. I like to, like I said, I love going out thrifting. So you do not have to spend a ton of money to create something beautiful. And some people would probably love to just go to TJ Maxx or Marshalls or where have you. And there's a lot of eclectic things there too. And you could probably pull a bunch of pieces from there. But personally, I like to do it vintage, thrifted. I love picking and pulling together really unique, eclectic, curated items. So, from like the thrift stores, like I said, a frame from the thrift store, or like even thrift store art. You can get free printables, or you can even like create your own digital designs, if you like. Or now there's the digital press from the Maker's Box. It automatically comes with the Maker's Box. Or you can get the digital press separately, or just tear out pages from some vintage books or old calendars. Some of the prettiest art costs absolutely nothing, you guys. So just remember that you don't need to go to an art gallery and get the most expensive piece. You can find some of the most unique pieces, at a secondhand store or like out of an old vintage book. Um, so upcycle old canvases with decoupage paper. You can use stencils and paint. So again, creating your own artwork. Yard sales, guys. I'm trying to think of like other places, and I had notes. I'm like, oh yeah, check yard sales. Right now, they're in full. Like every corner has a yard sale sign. Facebook Marketplace, like I had mentioned, Goodwill bins. And you can typically pay pennies for a lot of this stuff, especially at yard sales and the bins. And you can get some really good stuff off of Marketplace. So, with a little creativity, you can fill a wall without emptying your wallet, you guys. Just be inspired by one piece and start pulling together each of those, like some items. And then, like I said, lay it out and you're going to have your very own gallery wall. So I hope today this episode inspires you to start or update your own gallery wall. And remember, it does not have to be perfect. It just needs to tell your story. And if you do create one, you guys, tag me. I'd love to celebrate your creativity with you. I would love to share it on my very own page to showcase your creativity. Okay. So definitely tag at Sonnet's Garden Blooms, and I will definitely be sharing it. So in next week's episode, you guys, I am chatting with Connie from The Painted Photographer. She is the founder of Connie Lines and Designs, and she's an incredible artist and designer who recently retired from her 9 to 5. You guys, that was so awesome to pursue her own creative business. She is also going to be a creative at the Vintage Soul Creative Retreat. And that episode, you guys, is filled with, again, so much insight and inspiration just for you. So mark it on your calendar. Next week, I'm interviewing Connie. So don't forget, you guys, to rate, review, and subscribe to my podcast so you guys don't miss out on an episode. And if you've enjoyed today's tips, please share this with a friend who loves vintage decorating as well. If you would like to join in on that live styling session that I talked about inside the makers creative community, definitely it will be linked in the description below. And you can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the social platforms, and I post a whole lot more content over there. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's episode, and we will see you next week. Bye.